my name is Scott Wiley. We are in my studio, June Audio, and we're going to be talking today about the Maag Audio EQ2. My first experience with the EQ2 kind of goes back to my first experience with the EQ3 and the EQ3D, which are older Maag Audio or Night Pro products. But I've been using an EQ3D for, 10, 12 years or so, and kind of got used to the different bands there, the way they overlap, and especially using the Airband a lot to open up vocals. I use it a lot on 2Mix. So recently I had the chance to start demoing out a pair of EQ2s. It's been really great to get to know just how flexible and how usable just a 2-band EQ like that can be, and finding ways that it can help me throughout mixing, tracking, overdubs, everything. Before I had a chance to demo the EQ2, I think I would have probably had a little bit of a reservation about using a 500 series for my 2Mix. As I've been using the EQ, I've been surprised at just how many times it beats other really substantial, large 19-inch rack mount stereo EQs that I have, and how often I've been using it on the 2Mix, and really happy with the results. I kind of like the idea of just 2 bands. It says to me, you know, adding a little bit of top, maybe increasing a little bit in the bottom, tends to be something I want to do almost always on the mix, just a little bit. I've been loving the Airband on the 2Mix, just the way it kind of opens up the mix, gives me a lot more clarity and depth. And then my favorite thing is I've been kind of switching back and forth between the 3 lower frequencies. I've been using 65 on the narrow Q a lot to boost. I've been using the sub frequency a lot, and I'm just always surprised at how much I can boost without feeling like I'm muddying up 250, 200, that kind of area that you want to cut. Because that's my fear with any sort of 2Mix EQ, is that once you start boosting the low, now you need a cut above that to kind of get rid of some of the mud, and I don't find that at all. I don't know that I felt that way even about the old EQ3 that I have so much as with the new EQ2. I can really boost that low end, and it still just doesn't get muddy. It just gives me some heft down there that I'm looking for. So let me talk about the Airband on the EQ2. My favorite thing, of course, is just that ability to get up above the frequencies and really just control the frequencies I want. I can get up nice and high, but the bottom of the shelf doesn't affect frequencies I don't want. And I've noticed as I've been using the EQ2 that you've got the 40 and the 20, which the EQ3 always had, but then they've added 15 between 20 and 10, which is another great thing because, again, like, sometimes you want to add air to a vocal, but you don't want to get into that sibilance. You don't want to get into that edgy, that upper mid stuff. And so sometimes 15 is just the right place to be when 10 gets too low and you start affecting some of those lower frequencies. But 20 is just not bringing out quite enough in the singer. I've found that 15 just gets right in that sweet spot. So even more flexibility in the Airband than the old EQs had. When I was first introduced to the EQ2, I couldn't help but compare it to my EQ3. Or 3D, which is the older Night Pro EQ, because there are similarities, obviously, especially with the Airband. But the things that I find as great improvements, one, the detented knobs, especially for 2Mix, just being able to recall like really easily. That's a bit difficult on the EQ3D that I had with no detents. So that's really great to know that, that the settings between the two are exactly the same. When I'm cutting vocals, I love to give just a slight boost in depending on the singer, maybe 800, 1K, you know, just kind of up in that range. And I tend to like that on some of the Neve EQs I have. I always just give maybe a dB or so in that range somewhere for singers. It's just part of what I like to hear in a vocal. So to have on that the lower band, to be able to get up into 1K, which you couldn't do on the older units, of course, has been really great. It's opened up a whole new thing. So vocals, to me, I might add a little bit of that real high stuff in the Airband and just a tiny bit at 1K, and that's all the vocal EQ I usually need. One improvement on the EQ2 that I've noticed over my older EQ3D is the addition of an InOut Switch for each band. So for the LMF band, if don't want to use that, I just want to use the Airband, I can just reach over and switch those out independent of the Airband. Or conversely, if I just want the low mids and I want to get rid of the Airband for this, I can just turn those off. Like many studios these days, I end up with a lot of different mic preamps. I do have a console, but a lot of people at home, you know, they just have racks of different mic preamps. And I find that typically, especially with the older preamps, once you get some gain up in those APIs and the Neves and the Longevins, I mean, once you get some gain up to where you get a sound you want, your level's too hot. So I love the EQ2 for that. I love having that input, the attenuation, to be able to tame that mic preamp and get me a decent level before I hit that EQ. I do a lot of recording with ribbon mics. They're some of my favorite mics lately to use. Of course, everybody knows that for the most part with traditional ribbon mics, they're just a little bit darker, but they take EQ really nicely. And again, with that Airband, I've just really liked the idea that you can get the center frequency up high enough that by the time you boost, you're really just touching the upper stuff. And I find that if I need a little bit more, I can bring that frequency down. I can get down to 20, I can get down to 15, but I don't have to be affecting 2, 3K, which in a lot of singers can just be a bit harsh once you start boosting, especially. So yeah, I've been using it a ton with ribbon mics. I've been cutting a lot of vocals with ribbon mics lately, which is a fairly new thing for me, especially in, you know, more of a singer-songwriter realm. I've traditionally used large diaphragm tube mics. So to be able to use a ribbon mic but still get some presence up there and feel like I can really have control of how much of that top end I'm getting without getting harsh has been really great. The simplicity of the EQ is typically just about all you need for most tracks. You know, if you're carving too much and you need a whole bunch of bands, sometimes that just means you need a different mic or to change something out in the room before you start EQing like crazy. So I find just having those two bands, it usually just offers everything I need.